when an athlete is preparing for competition, there's a thing that they search for when it comes down to what they're looking for. They want to be like superheroes. That's the thing that athletes are going for. And the reason why I opened this up and showed you Devin Haney in the midst of training camp, because we're going to show you what's happening over the course of the past 4 decades in the sport of boxing. There has been an oversight on how an athlete actually supposed to train, what does what, and how much of what should you do in order to become a supreme athlete that's not undertrained, but definitely is not overtrained. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some clips from some of the things that I see that I like, and some things that I see that will give you the actual science behind it so that you can judge what you should use and what you should keep your distance from whenever you're in a training camp of any sort for competition at a very high level. So what happens is we're going to break into that. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself for those of you who are new to the channel. Shame on you. Boy, you're late to the dance. My name is Eric A. Bradley, coach, that is. And we are going to give you the insight from our live to give you more of what an athlete should really be given during these times. And it's not rocket science, but before we go into that, I like to thank our sponsors, which pay the bills, keep the lights on, keep the cameras running. Jab Juice Consultants, giving the consultant IQ for the brand and the sport of combat, boxing, and businesses. So they understand exactly what direction they're trying to get into and go, and kind of lead those individuals to their highest good with understanding how to operate, build their brands using social media, and knowing exactly what moves to make in their career in order to get to their highest level. That's Jab Juice Consultants. You can reach them at jabjuice.com. Now, let's get to the topic at hand. I'm going to show you a couple of things that has happened over the past few generations in the sport. There was a true understanding of what could be implemented to the human body, but there are key factors that must be really brought to your light. And so with that being said, I want you guys to understand the key factors in conditioning by Eric A. Bradley. That's me, aka coach. So when I was in the medical forums, I got to understand the body from a different point of view. And there are so many different layers to when you condition the body. So I'm going to give you some medical terms, and I'm going to also give you some terms from the world of sports performance so that you could really wrap your mind around it and not only just hear it from someone who's an expert in the field for 4 decades, but you can now take it and use that information to make better judgments. First, let me clarify the difference between one individual and another individual in camp. See, the responsibility of a trainer is to train the athlete, and the responsibility of the coach is to coach the fighter. Where we find a crossover, and we have to really create that line, is when the strength and conditioning coach trainer is trying to coach the fighter, and when the coach is trying to train the athlete. So you got to be careful about those lines. In camp, you need separation and division so that there is no confusion who plays what role. You'll find that a lot of times. Now, if you are a trainer, you're doing mid work, you're holding the body vest, you're working pads as far as the power pads, punch shields and things like that. He's working on technique. You got your technician, that person who's doing those things. The tactician is strategically planning the mapping out. And then you have your head coach who oversees a lot of the things that's going on and gives his thumbs up or gives his opinion. So we got to preface this thing and make sure that we don't get out of sorts when you're learning what roles go on in camp. For those of you who are in top trainer program, they understand that there's a place that they go learn all of the responsibilities that need to be in your camp. Because if you don't have the right people in camp, you can guarantee your camp will not run in a proper manner. You will run into headaches and cross over, consistently stepping on one another's toes. When I was in the game, I had opportunities to have things like that happen. But when I came in, only once I came in, people realized you don't fit, you're moving out of my way. I'm an expert in this area and I bring value. And that's what you got to know, the difference between being in a role or being an expert in that role, and knowing where you are. Stay in your lane is the bottom line. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to show you the key factors in each one of these things. So when it comes down to conditioning, I'm an avid fan of
I know the ritual,
running.
same thing. Every
And
camp,
this
we put
running,
in Mount Charleston.
when I see this,
the elevation in, hardest run of my life.
pros and cons, we're going to get into it. So the pros and cons of knowing what kind of workouts that you have to do in order to get yourself to optimal levels. Let me see. Now, pros and cons. Pros of knowing how to do certain particular workouts. Let's say weightlifting, which is coming up right here after I get done with this, builds muscle mass. Now keep these things right front and center. Take notes if you want to, because I'm going to pull this thing together and really clarify through equations so that you can make decisions in your camp. If you're the coach and you see your trainer doing something that does not give this cause and effect that you're looking for, this will give you the leg to stand on. Because I'm sorry, I don't really put a lot of weight in who is your trainer on your team. There's just more than a likely chance that they're not as experienced as I am in this field. And that's not throwing shade. That's just talking facts. 4 full decades. I came straight off of the medical side of things into this game and recruited by the highest sports teams in the freaking country, and only because of my expertise. And I was totally earning of and deserving of it because I put the work in, because I believe if you really want to get to a higher level, you got to learn a lot more, and you got to learn a lot more than that once you get going. So this is never to throw shade. It's just that I've done it from the surgical table to the NFL to the sport of boxing to the training field on an entirely different level. So it's all about the experiences and the true knowledge, and really understanding and studying biology, physiology, anatomy, all of these different areas, kinesiology, studies and studies and studies. So that's what you'll be when you do all of those things. The kinematics of human motion is a real thing. So how do you apply that to what you're doing? So what we're going to do is show you that elevation, that running. What you see with the first training regimens that you saw is the ability to add conditioning. When you run at elevation, your red blood cells increase because the body lacks oxygen, because you are at height, you are above the clouds. There's not a lot of oxygen. There's very thin air. So your labor, if you've ever run in the mountains, you feel the laboring of your lungs, is because your body cannot encompass air, it cannot pull it in. The air is super thin. You're above sea level. Let's just say 5 to 9,000 feet. And that's a lot. And you are up there and there is very little oxygen. So you find yourself deplenishing much faster. But what's happening is your red blood cells, which carry oxygen, are actually increasing because your body's a natural defense mechanism. And when the body is feeling something, attack it. like the lack thereof. Same way when you don't have food in your body has already created glycogen stores. And so your body starts to feed off of that. You got people in Ramadan having to fast all the time, 30 days. But no need to fret because the body's already reserved all of the nutrients that you need just in case. Our bodies are designed for the smoke. And this is what you got to think about when you're developing the body. Different areas that you'll start conditioning yourself in. And for now, we get to what we call the calisthenics. Now you know what the running will do, but we're going to go through the pros and cons of these things too, because not everything that you do actually benefits you only. So now you get into calisthenic training, which I love to see. And that fluidity allows you to develop. And that was in the first scene. And the first scene was pretty much basically, I love calisthenics and just a little slight resistance, right? That's great. And what that does is all about elasticity, but the body, you're going to really trip out where I bring this thing to when it comes down to understanding when is it time for what, and what exactly can you expect from each one of these things, because we're going to break it down. And I told you, that's what we do on this channel, and never be late to the dance. Now, how does this impact you when you're boxing?
Core body with, we did some neuromuscular, we did some neuromuscular primers with the jumping and the isometrics. Then we went into the heavy trap bar, working on our strength. We're doing contrast training, so we do a speed or dynamic or power, whatever you want to call it, exercise first, and we finish with a strength exercise. So that's what we're doing for the next 3 blocks. And then...
All right. So now that's what I was not a fan of. And the reason why I tell you this is because here's the deal. Here's what you're going to be dealing with there when it comes down to, let me pop my stuff up on the screen for you guys. Now, when you start building muscle and not understanding exactly how you should do it, first you saw the calisthenic training, which is I'm a humongous fan of, because I've learned through knowing the greatest minds in boxing as coaches. I learned the hard way, and I'll give you a quick story on that in a minute. But here are the actual repercussions of building up massive muscle. Here are the words that you got to be familiar with. Lactic acid, right? Number one, this is the acid that will bite your muscles like you have piranhas in your skin when you are pumping that body. The next is hyperemia. And that is what we call in the world of strength training, the pump. That's when your blood almost coagulates in one area and it traps all of that lactic acid. And it's like it's eating you away, and you can't even do another rep. You can't even hold your arms up. And I'm going to show you what other negatives that comes of this, because when you see individual boxing and this is starting to happen, you start to wonder what's going on with that fighter. But what happens is the oxygen is now being sucked through the red blood cells and into the muscle, opposed to it actually transferring through the body and keeping the body, let's say, satiated with oxygen, because you need oxygen in order to function. Your brain needs it in order to think clearly. But what's going on is you're going in reverse of what the human body actually needs to be going on. This is what you have to know. The blood is going, the oxygen's going all to the muscle tissue. You get it? The muscle tissue is sucking everything out of the stream like a greedy fat king. And what's going on is the body goes into dire straits. So that lactic acid is eating you away. And this is exactly what it looks like when it's taking over your body. Even if you're ahead in a match, I want you guys to take close look, because this is not my opinion. These are proven facts, and that's what we do. We get the medical data, and then we get the physical data, and then we put it on the table as the case. Here's the case.
Oh, he's down.
Incredible start.
That's
absolutely amazing. Yeah, look at him backing up.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big left hook, Nick.
Yeah.
Looks like he's maybe punched himself out a little bit there. He has to wait on his second one now, Joshua, because he's not looking too good here.
Yeah. He's coming back with his jumping left hook.
Oh, it's a huge right hand from Klitschko. Joshua came back with the left hook, but I think the right hand from Klitschko had more effect. These are jarring, stabbing
another one.
shots.
Joshua's now backing up. Look at this. Klitschko has turned this around completely here in this fifth round. My goodness me. What a dramatic fifth round this is. The biggest win of his career, and now Anthony Joshua is hanging on a little bit. A big uppercut getting through.
It's not quite come yet. Oh,
another jolting right hand sends Joshua down.
All right, and that's the equation. When you make a choice to lift, it doesn't matter how fancy you get with it. You can start doing medicine ball slams, and you can start doing all the other things, because there's another operative word here that I'm going to explain to you that no one keeps in their safe vault. But what's going on is all of those things that I just said to you are taking over his body. So he goes from totally active with getting a knockdown to now that his body's exercised exactly what he'd been putting it through in training camp, it actually triggers a notification to the brain. Fill up, pump, protect. So the body's filling up with blood. Hyperemia is happening. Acid is happening. The oxygen is leaving. Everything's happening, and he's in pain thinking about trying to throw a punch, and he couldn't defend himself. And see, these are the things that no one thinks about whenever they're wanting to look a certain way. They want to be that certain way. If you take a look at his body in his last fight, he was fluid. That means he'd been doing less of what he did to get to that place physically and more of what he needed to do. So here's a great understanding of when should weights be implemented then, coach, because I want to lift. Okay. When I would do this, the thing that I want you to keep in mind is, what is the weights actually used for? See, when you come here, we go and we break down exactly what the weights are used for. First, you want them to realize that the key factor is fluid muscles are required. Weights are used for bone density. And that's what you use weights for. Weights aren't going to be beneficial when you think it's making you stronger. Let me give you something that maybe no one's asked you before. Okay? What do you think makes you a stronger vessel? A strong skeleton or something that goes on top of the skeleton? It's pretty much like saying, do you want a strong foundation, or do you want to cover your house with paper mache, straw? Because see, that isn't what makes your foundation. Your foundation, your skeleton is your foundation. There's nothing beneath your skeleton. All right. So adding more muscle isn't what the whole arterial motive should be when you're building up your body for prosperity. You're building up your body so that it could be better in action. And that word is called dexterity, the readiness and grace in physical activity. So when you use activity, you're trying to mimic the activities that will benefit you greatly. That isn't using what we call in sports performance world, you do not want to use, let me make sure I pull it up right. Give me 1 second. Did I put it here? Linear training. What is that? That's straight line. You're squatting, you're going up and you're going down. You're bench pressing, you're going up and you're going down. Do you think that helps you with active muscle? What helps you with active muscle is active muscle training, action muscle development. This is why when you fight real greatness or you compete against real greatness, that means you have the actual dictionary of what is to be done. You understand it from a biological standpoint. Biology is real. You can't put your notions all over it because it stays biology. Biology is the system. Biology is the all and end all. So you can go and you can put your own opinions into play and hopes, but the same outcome will continue over the course of time because that's nature. And when you go against nature, you have to go with the residual effect of nature. Need I say more about that? Because once you start to see that this is working not for you, but against you, you have to know that there are active muscle training methods that you have to consider doing, or you will find yourself in a situation that you cannot overcome because of the fact that you were letting your coach train the athlete and your trainer coach the fighter. There has to be a line, and you must understand that there are elements of the human body: oxygen, blood, acid, bone, ligaments, tendons, fluidity, perception, reaction. When you are working with these guys over the course of the first 15 years of me with my own, what we call, I had my own physiology. All right. That was my concept of the human body. And I see a lot of you guys have dropping your questions and stuff. We'll address everything once I get going and I get really, really clear with the point. And I say thank you guys. What you have to keep in mind is you can't put your own physiology up against the book. And I did that because I would walk into the gym and I was looking jacked. I'm wearing the Mike Tyson junk today. So, I felt myself and I had the guns. I lifted a little bit, didn't need to lift a lot. My body reacts a lot to anything that I do. So here's the deal. I went to the mindset of I could lift weights at 147 pounds. I could bench 315. Okay, so that's almost not even really possible for that weight. But, when you believe in your own stuff, you start to project that onto other people. Hence is why I tell trainers and explain to them that you have to understand that there is an actual proper manner to do things. And there's your way to do things. They're not the same thing. When it's so much yours, this is why I always give credit to my coaches and forefathers. I don't take the credit. I say it was my experiences, because when I talk about me, I talk about the moments that we had that my face crashed into a wall because I'm not caught up with ego and being all about the arrogant mindset, because that gets you nowhere in real business or sport. and you have to learn how to realize your mitt holding means nothing to the world, as great as you love doing it. Your technique teaching, nobody cares. The world keeps going. What you have to learn how to do is mold and listen to people who've been here before you. My coach was saying, don't put weights on these guys. And I kept doing it my way. Now, it was my own physiology. I would clearly state that I do lightweight, but I also noticed that with my body, the lightweight wasn't allowing me to get back leaner, because if I would get in there and spar and work with my fighters, I'm still bulky. Couldn't even touch my back at one time. So that wasn't really smart. But it was just because I wasn't lifting as much as I was. I was working out with 235, 245, 250 on the bench, working out with it because I was pumping 315. So I thought because I dropped in 65 and I would go as high as 285, just getting reps. But then I said, I can't keep doing this, because over the course of time, something had happened and I had to stop, because I had to get in the ring with one of my kids' names was 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪. He was like 6'1.5", super long reach, super quick. And I said, I got to get quicker. I can time him with this big bolo punch, because if I hit you with one, you out. But I didn't think that that was smart. So I like to land combinations. I like to put smoke in the fireplace. So that's what I would commit to doing. And it took 7 years to lose that muscle, all that mass that was on my body, because I was thinking that it would just go away if I stopped lifting. And a lot of you think the minute you stop lifting is when that stuff's going to go away. It's not. It's going to be there. Every time your body's going to be reminded that it's being shocked, and it's going to fill with blood. Do a test. If you're an active guy and you work out, watch how long it takes your body to go away. I was dealing with a shoulder, and I was thinking I was losing all my muscle with the frozen shoulder thing for like 5 months. Absolutely nothing. I feel in all my shirts the same way. Your muscles just won't go anywhere. They are there. Now, are they flaccid right now, not filled with blood? Yeah, but if you do work physical, it'll pop up. So you got to be careful what you use weight training for. And I would learn that if I lift weights. Now, Donnell was in camp. He was 32-0 as a heavyweight. No weight training ever. Push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, period. That's it. Run the miles, do the stuff. And these guys were dogs in the ring. And the reason why they were dogs in the ring is because they didn't have anything sucking the oxygen out of their body when it really counted most. And so this is what you have to learn about the layers in the body. You know, the epicenter, the layers in the body, knowing how to deal with perception, motor skills and things, all of that reaction, perception, you know, being able to flinch and your reflexes, your dexterity, your density, understanding active muscle training. That is where you find all of the science, which has been cultivated over a long time. Now, I want you to see what it actually looks like when you put it up into a training system. And it's called 12 peaks, because there are 12 areas all divided that you must put up. And it's 12 peaks. That's a training system that does not have residual effect. You develop active muscle. And put the other one up that you can kind of pop through. It's calisthenic development. These things, that's good. Thank you a lot. And it's 12 weeks of 12 peaks. That means you do X amount before camp, X amount during camp, and then post camp. So you're not just working out for your competitions during the training camp. You're living that life, because that's a part of what your body has to go through if you ever plan on being a champion. 12 peaks, understanding every layer of the body without confusion. There's no confusion on what the body can actually do. The body can do so many things when you do the right things, when you got the right oxygen, you're not sitting there experiencing hyperemia. You're not going through that fire in your lungs and that burning and fire that's residing in your muscles, and you can't even lift them up during the fight. Exhaustion chronically. This is what happens when you don't understand. When the coach is training and trainers are coaching, there's confusion in the camp. There's no biology there. There's no sports performing there. What you have is people who want to show off what they know. They show you some things. They've watched a few Instagram posts. They've hit YouTube a couple of times, but this came out before any of that stuff existed. We're talking about 134 years of experience just in this company and understanding the human body. I've cut open over 5,000 people. No, I did. I guess I was doing that a year. I know the body a little bit different. I was recruited by the same guy who recruited Ray Lewis into the NFL. The first thing that they said was, "You're the best I've ever had. I've been in the league for 15 years. You're the best." And I was thankful to hear that because it was affirmation, but I didn't take it any further than that. Very few people have heard me say that because I don't need that, because I do understand biology, human biology. You can't let what you think you know interfere with what's real. My ego got in the way the first chapter of my career, but my ego didn't get in the way the second chapter because I was writing books on it. And when you read any of our books, the 6 weeks training camp, what it does is it explains to you what is conditioning for the body. When you get into your running program, how do you actually need to run without the residual effect and all beneficial gains? It looks a certain way. 12 Peaks just is a breakdown of how you do anything physically for gain, especially when you're competing in the highest levels of boxing. Skills pay the bills when you've done all of the other things right, and that the head is in the right space. Knowing who you got in your training camp is almost as important as being there yourself, because you don't quite know your fighters and your fighters don't quite know you. But you have to put on a face every single day, and they will put on a face every day. But the reality is, just like with Anthony Joshua, the ring will soon tell the truth about you, and you cannot escape it, because a fighter can only fight and escape his demons for as long as you don't require him to bite down on this mouthpiece. In a moment of turmoil in that ring, the minute he faces that demon, you find out who he is. Throw a jab. When you tell someone to do something and they can't do it, it's telling you something different. You have to pay attention to the details. It's not about a skill. It's about something that's going on deeper inside of that human being that you have to understand how to do it. And this is one of the main reasons that I had to write psychological programs, one called Boxing Bond. It's the human communication tool of coping, knowing how to dialogue, knowing how to open people up and express, because that's what you need in the corner. That person needs to know that you understand exactly where they are, and that's what everybody does not have. But guess what? They can do mitts really cool, so they think, I figured out boxing because I learned how to do mitts. I figured out boxing because I know how to tell them what to do in sparring. I've been invited to gyms to box with them, so now they know boxing. But This is what's going on because there's no lineage here. People don't understand how important it is to have lineage in boxing, in any sport, because that is your safe place. That's where you get the answers. That's where Eve gets the apple in the Garden of Eden. That's where it all resides. All of the stuff that you need. You have to position yourself. When you got greatness around you, you have to position yourself. And you have to realize that they have the answers. And if you got the answers, and if you want to get to the higher level of anything, doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be talking about starting your business. And you know that's what I'm about. I'm about catapulting. If you're about that life, you need to understand what you need to do and stop making it about your ass. Because it's not about you. I'll forget more than you'll ever learn in this industry because I've done it for 4 decades. And the ones that came before me, 8 decades. 9, excuse me. You get it? So that's 134 decades. 13 decades and 13 and a half decades of knowledge, 134 years of knowledge, serious experience, real knowledge, real testimonies. You don't know anything, and that's what you have to say to yourself, because once you start feeling yourself, because you learn a skill and things like that, that's not the sport. You're dealing with exterior factors. You're dealing with attributes. That's not boxing competitively as a sport. You're dealing with internal demons and the residual effect of what people thought they knew how to do, like condition your body, but they didn't know shit about real conditioning. They just been bouncing around stealing ideas from Instagram and YouTube and thought that that gave them the science behind what they were doing. But I just gave you a science lesson. And if you're not operating under a 12 peaks kind of system, not workout, system, it's how you live. It answers all things you'll face. And it's timeless. You don't have to use another one. Y'all are working with programs because it looks different all the time. Every time you see a different athlete, you're doing a whole bunch of new stuff. That stuff that doesn't have 60 years of data behind it, but it got 6 hours of data behind it because that's how long ago you captured it and wanted to put it on an athlete. That's what's happening. And, that's what I'm here to do, turn the thing around and make sure you guys understand that I'm bringing you the honest, straightforward facts, factual. It's not got anything to do with my own personal beliefs. It's what the data has shown over 4 decades for me, and that I was challenging theirs. Oh, y'all just old school. Y'all don't understand the body. These guys today are much more conditioned. No, they're not. One thing I'm going to forewarn Devin Haney about is the legs getting a little excessively big from a lot of that heavy duty lifting. And where it happens from linear movements are the residual effects. Ligament tears. Looking at NFL, how many people tear their ligaments, ACLs, anterocruciate ligaments, exterior ligaments, medial ligaments, cruciate ligaments. You know what I'm saying? Needing to get arthroscopies, needing to get shoulders done, needing to get hips done, discectomies done. These kids are in their 20s, but 7-8 years of lifting straight linear movements and then adding some little karaoke's in between, that's not going to get it. You don't understand how to train the human body. And that's the thing. But when you understand active training, systemizing how the body actually is meant to move, you don't get injuries. You don't get any of those residual effects. And hopefully this was something that really gave you more insight. And The reality is we want you all to be educated on a high level because we want to see you all at the top. But what happens is people want to keep doing things their way. When you get to bigger business, you got to remember you're too small on the planet. You want to know how small you is? Lay down, look up at the stars tonight. It'll take about 1 second to realize how little and irrelevant you are. Or go out to the ocean at nighttime or in the daytime. Go to the middle where you don't see land and realize how much of zero you equal. That's why it's all about impact and learning what's already been taught, what's already been in the books for you to learn it, and act like it's not up to you. It's up to the books. If you want to know about life, get the Bible or the Quran, whatever floats your boat. If you want to know about food, understand the human body from the sun's point of view, because that's where you learn how to eat. Okay. The body operates in a particular manner throughout the day. There's the moment of priming, cleansing, digestion, and preparation for the next round. That's why you eat at a certain time, you stop at a certain time. This is all biological facts. The body does go on and the body goes off. That's why some people are fatty and that's why some people are super lean. It's all about understanding biology. The human anatomy is a real thing. So hopefully you guys got some value out of this and you can utilize it later. Like I said before, our sponsors, jabjuice.com. Jab Juice Consultants make sure that these shows are happening for you guys every single time. I have to get paid to do this from my own companies. And we have to make sure that the athletes out there and the trainers out there understand the power of building your own personal brands. And that's exactly what's going to get you in situations and out of the situations that you're putting yourself into. Don't neglect yourself. Learn more about how to improve your life. Because when you start focusing on improving your life with knowledge and bringing people around you that are knowledgeable, that's when things will start changing. And that's when you can almost write your check for the future. I told you all before, I've said it once, I've said it twice. When you do this thing right, boxing will pay you. And thanks to all of you guys who have been signing up in our school for the School of Boxing, all of you guys who have been downloading and ordering the skills training guide, the 52-week skill training guide. We appreciate you. For those of you who like posts and comment on posts and share our posts, thank you for taking the time to do that because you're allowing us to grow and to continue to teach and give you the direction that will get you to your highest good. This information is going to be here on the Facebook page and it will be on YouTube. In Instagram, it'll be shot up into the subscriber portal. If these are the kind of teachings that you want to see consistently, subscribe over there on the Instagram, or you can either subscribe to our YouTube channel, Master Boxing LLC. That's all I got. Hopefully you guys will utilize this knowledge. If you have questions, be sure to reach out and we will definitely answer the questions that are over here. Thank you all. We saw you all popping your questions in. We will do a Q&A. We will start doing our Q&As every Tuesday. So make sure that you get your questions either on a post because we're going to pull them from social media. That's all I got until next time. Like I said once before, everything is all about growing in knowledge and getting knowledge to get you to your next level. Plan what that is and make sure that you can keep yourself locked in and don't let anybody steer you off of your pathway because you are the ones that steer that boat, and don't let anything take you off course. Until next time, continue blessings from all of the platforms that are watching right now. Coach Bradley signing out. Be blessed at God's speed. This is Master Boxing LLC, where you get your master's degree in the sport of boxing. Peace.